Madigan and welcome to another one of my interviews on Hair Heroes. Today is a very exciting one. I'm going to be interviewing my absolute ultimate hero, Mr. Alan Austin Smith, Mr. Fantastic himself. So I'm going to head up to his hotel in a little while. I'm just going to pop in here, get my girls to do my hair, make me all beautiful, and I'll see you in a little while. Now, Alan, anybody who is watching this interview knows exactly who you are, exactly what the Fantastic Hairdresser is about. You're a company, you're always growing, but there's always something new coming out. And to keep that going, I'd love to know, like, what actually keeps you going and what keeps new ideas coming and where you're going with your next step?
Fear, I think. You know what, I've been lucky enough, like you are, to spend time talking to some amazing people. Travis Orby, Tim Scolo, and real icons in our industry. And I think we're all the same. I think we're all the same. We're always driving, we're always coming up with you, and it's like, what do I do now? Yeah. You know what, one thing people say to me sometimes, which is great, obviously, I'll do a seminar or I'll do something in-house for someone, and they go, Alan, that was the best yet. And I go, oh, that's great. But then I think, now I've got to do even better. And I'm always thinking, now what? Now what? Now what? The moment you sit there going, hey, look at me, look at us. Fantastic Hairdresser was one of, if not the best-selling books in the salon industry around the world. And I could sit there and go, hey, look at us. But I don't. I go, okay, fab. Now what? Yeah. And I think that's probably my biggest drive, my biggest motivation. The other thing, I guess, is I like solving things. And I look at the industry sometimes, and the industry that I fell in love with when I was 16. And I still see so many things that need to change. Mm-hmm. Anybody knows me knows my favourite saying, and that's, is it working? And for me, I'm constantly asking that question, and that throws up when it says no. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, let's find a solution.
So I want to go back a little bit. I want to go back. I want to know, where did that solid man come from?
What, from the skinny out? Okay. I was born in North London, in Mill Hill. My parents ran a private preparatory school. And that was actually, if you want to go further back, that was actually passed on to them by my grandparents. Okay. So my grandparents were teachers. My grandfather was headmaster of a public school, then they opened their own school, and then both my parents were teachers, and then they took on the school. So I actually grew up I actually lived in school.
It's all starting to make a bit of sense now, isn't it?
But yeah, I think it's quite interesting because then my parents changed the business. It was something to do with politics. I don't know. But it was something that changed the whole funding thing, whatever. And they decided to move out of the school situation, but they had the premises, and they turned it into a catering premises. And they used to do weddings and things like that. And so I sort of went from a school environment to a service environment. Mm-hmm. And I then spent a part of my life in a service environment. And my weekends, I was a little 11, 12-year-old as a weekend, serving canapes at weddings. And then my treat was I was allowed to sit with the drummer of the band in the evening if I worked. And so I sort of grew up in a service environment, which again I guess makes some sense. And I mean, my mum and dad were really, really hot on providing an amazing service, and they built this completely new business. I mean, they literally started a brand new business, and they built it to be incredibly successful on recommendation because of the service people received. And again, anybody knows me knows I'm passionate about that. So yeah, it does sort of make a bit of sense, doesn't it? Yeah,
that actually makes perfect sense. Do you think that's where you got it from?
I guess it was. Yeah. The interesting thing is I bucked the trend totally. I became a hairdresser. Yeah. But I still ended up as a teacher. Yeah. And
you went back to your roots.
Yeah. And it's interesting you said about motivation as well, because I lost both my parents at a young age. For me, I was quite young. I wasn't a child, but I was in my early 20s. There's that wonderful age you reach when mum and dad will always be mum and dad, but they do become friends almost. And I love that moment when my own kids now tell me the stories of the things they did when they were kids that I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, my daughter climbing out a window and you know, and me going to meet her friends, and, you know, things like that you didn't know. There's a story about Sam that people didn't know. I never actually got to that point. I was in my early 20s, and I look at that and I think, oh, you know, I missed that. And that's had a big impact on me, there's no question, in that the recognition that they worked so hard and they created so much, and then in their early 60s and didn't get the chance perhaps to get as much back that they would like to. And a motivation for me has always been that one day it's going to happen. It's the one truism in life, whether we like it or not. Whenever that happens, hopefully in a long time, but whenever that happens, I want to be, even if I get knocked over by a bloody bus, I still want to be able to go, you know, I won't be happy about it, but I still want to be able to go, you know what, that was good.
Yeah.
I
done good.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And then again, everybody knows I always sign off, have fun.
You have great balance. You know, I know it can be tipped a little bit, but that has to be done too.
Yeah, there's times when it isn't, but overall I try.
Yeah, and that's really, really good. It's fantastic. Everything, it has to be balanced, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Balance is critical. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to spend a long time. We're not here to plug what I'm doing, but that's Mindflip, my new program, new seminar, which is coming up to a new book that I'm writing. Is all about that, all about balance. You're right, absolutely.
Like a good haircut.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me, how did you go from there to being a hairdresser to where you are? Was it always something you wanted to do? Because sometimes it's built in from, you know, a 3-year-old and they're there with the come home and dolls. No, that was never you?
No, I always joke about it. I wasn't playing with my Action Man's hair when I was 7, saying I want to be a hairdresser. No. A lot of people know the story, so I won't labour it because I often use it to open up a seminar. But 16 years old, I had a girlfriend who was a hairdresser, and I actually was invited in to the salon to be a model for a show, please. This was a few years ago. And I fell in love with the business. I fell in love with the passion, I fell in love with the creativity, and if I'm completely honest, I fell in love with all the pretty girls around. And I thought, hey, this is cool, this is fun. You know, this looks like a great way to spend your life. I'm 54 years old now, and I still love the passion. I still love the creativity, and if I'm honest, I still love the pretty girls around. My mum said to me, listen, if you're going to do it with the best. And in those days, there was no question, it was without a say. So I trolled off to Bond Street, thinking I was looking so cool. In those days, fashion was very different. We didn't have the global media phenomenon that we have today. And even though I lived just in North London, on the outskirts of London, verging on Hertfordshire, wow, the difference between what I thought was fashionable and what was happening in central London was just, you know, I really thought I looked amazing. And they just laughed at me. So yeah, off I went. A wee little 16-year-old in my brown dungarees, any Sassooni's out there will remember that. Went through the whole process that everybody goes through there and came through. After a few years, it was time for me to move on. Loved Sassoons. I mean, seriously, loved it. Absolutely loved it, and I owe them so much. But I decided I wanted to learn more. And I joined a wonderful company called Glenby, which has since been swallowed up by Regis, and enjoyed that. And I became ultimately creative director of one of the London salons in Phoenix in Bond Street. Then from there, moved on, became as an educator. And then I joined L'Oreal. And my time, I was 8 years with L'Oreal. I think that was where things really changed for me, because I started to realise that there was so much that needed to change in the industry.
Because you took that shift from hairdresser to wanting more from the other side.
Yeah. It was where, again, people know the 50%.
Yeah.
I guess I did that naturally, but didn't know it. And what I all of a sudden started to see was lots of hairdressers and lots of salons. Mm-hmm. And realised, like, why are you not doing this?
But do you think then, going back to, would say, with the catering from your mum and dad, that, like, you know, because you literally grew up with 100%, 200% customer service, and that everything had to be the best because that's what you were learning from with your parents.
Absolutely. And that was then reinforced by Sassoons. and working in Bond Street, and then working for a company like L'Oreal and so on. And then I was really like, whoa. Anyway, cut long story short, I took a massive decision. I was still very young. I was on the career ladder at L'Oreal. But I took this massive decision to step off that ladder and set up my own business. Shocked a lot of people, I think, when I did it. But what I felt was wrong, and I still feel is wrong today, was that everybody was trying to bang square pegs into round holes. In other words, turning hairdressers into something not only that they're not, but they don't even want to be. And when I was getting success when I worked at L'Oreal by simply banging round pegs into round holes and saying, hey, you're a hairdresser, you're a creative person, let's make that work. Let's take that and make you fantastic. And you know what? You'll earn more money. You'll be more successful. You'll put more money on the till. Everybody will be happy. Your client's happy. Your boss is happy. You're happy. Instead of trying to turn you into a salesperson, into a retailer, into something you don't want to be. We all know we've got to improve those skills, but let's do it in a way that motivates the hairdresser, that gets... Look, by the way, not just hairdressers, anybody. If you want people to act and act differently, you have to communicate, not just to the mind, you have to communicate to the heart.
Because if it's not in here, it's not going to happen.
If you just communicate to the heart, there's no content. If you just communicate to the mind, there's content but no passion. You need both. And I think that what we've always done well at the Fantastic Hairdresser is marry those two things together, is to communicate in such a way that motivates people to want to change, to want to do things differently. And I sort of instinctively did that, but I knew instinctively that what was happening was wrong. And then if you apply my other little question, is it working? It was clear it wasn't, and hasn't been for a long time. I think so much of what I see today is actually dragging the passion out of this industry. We've got to get the passion back into this industry, desperately.
Yeah. Anyone who's losing a bit of passion, go on one of your seminars, because the people, including myself, that I see coming out of your seminars, it's just a heart full of pure passion. So just a few little fun ones just before we go. I want to know, because you have worked with, the biggest names in our industry.
We're very lucky. Yeah.
But I would like to know, who inspires you? Who is your ultimate inspiration?
That's so difficult, and you know what? You know why it's so difficult? It's because you're right. I have been lucky enough to work with some amazing people. If you force me to single out one person, there can only be one in this industry, and so many people know exactly what I'm going to say. It's got to be Vidal. And his passion. You know what? I worked for the company, but it was a time when he was in America, so I didn't actually. It wasn't like I was working in the salon next to him. I was lucky enough later in life to get to know him and spend some time with him. And those eyes, and anybody who's ever sat with Vidal and had a conversation with him, his eyes, mesmerising. The passion in his eyes. You felt like you could change the world after sitting with that man for just a few moments. So if you're going to force me to choose one, it has to be Vidal. In life, again, there are so many, and you know this is going to sound so cheesy, but my children, Craig, Sam, Nathan, I watch them grow, I watch them have fun and enjoy, and I'm so proud to have had a little piece of being able to give them some of that. And then, again, it sounds so corny, but my team, the people I'm working with, and the energy that people like you and Steve and people like this bring, and the passion that you have for what we do, is inspiring to me. That inspires me. You know, that someone like you wants to do what you want to do with the schools and your passion. It really is a difficult one. There are so many people. I get inspired by comedians. The sad passing of Robin Williams, that hit me hard. That hit me hard because, again, what a wonder. He inspired me so much. I'm inspired all the time. I'm inspired by art. I'm inspired by nature. I'm inspired by people. In fact, I think that's what keeps me going. I've got these antennae going all the time that are just like, wow. Ooh, I can be inspired.
Soaking it all in.
I had a coffee the other day in a place, and they bought my coffee and they bought a little shot glass with Smarties in. That inspires me. So Yeah, there's no one person or one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, excellence. Excellence. People, that inspires me. Whether it's the person, whether it's the beauty of nature, the excellence of nature, whether it's art, excellence, and people who strive for excellence. I can't get my head around people who accept mediocre. I don't know whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in life, whether it's in what they hang on their wall, whether it's hair. Excellence.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, a fun one.